tell you what, I am using every ounce, every drop of willpower within my body not to go absolutely mental right now after that. But I will say, straight off the bat, fair play, Stoke. They got the win, fair and square. It was a very, very good strike, albeit a very late strike from Tom Cannon. Late on, I always say before we play Stoke what a fan I am of him. I think he's a fantastic striker, and it really was a great strike from him. Such a clean strike to make it 1-0. But Jesus Christ, the mammoth amount of chances we had, hitting the post twice. We had 2 penalty claims in the first half. One of them was an absolute stonewaller. Another one, my ender should have gone down but didn't, and he was too honest. Otherwise, it would have been an absolute penalty. And their keeper anyway, Johansson, every time we play Stoke, or every time we've played him in the past, he just always seems to become fucking prime Neuer. Which, of course, it's not our problem. Well, it is our problem. It's not their problem. It's why they sign him. He's a fantastic goalkeeper. And that's not to say, by the way, with all this moaning from me, that's not to say that they didn't make any chances, because they definitely did have a couple of clear-cut chances. But just the sheer amount we created and just didn't finish off was an absolute piss take. But getting into the game anyway, we had to change a couple of players. And this is where I might give us a bit of leeway. But just some things were just unforgivable regardless. But we went with Pato in goal. Across the back, we had Sirkin at left back, we had Hume at right back, O'Nien and Mepham in the middle. Then we had Dan Neil in the centre midfield with Job, and Alexic started for the first ever time for Sunderland. Of course, we've only really seen, I think it was a sort of 5-minute cameo a while ago, and other than that, we haven't seen him at all. Alshish starts for the first time this year. On the left-hand side, and Mayenda on the right, with Isidore up top. So, of course, Chris Rigg last time out against Blackburn, he ended up, I think he's hurt his foot, and he ended up with a protective boot after the game, but it turns out it is only going to be about 2 weeks maybe for him, which is obviously fantastic news. But either way, we had to go with a really makeshift 11, or at least 2 starting players that we never really would have dreamt of starting originally. Roberts dropped to the bench. I believe there was rumours that he had a bit of a tight hammy, but we'll have to see. I'm not too sure if that was true. But getting into the game, I think the opening sort of 10-15 minutes, it was very cagey. It was very open in certain areas. It was really, really narrow on either wing for both sides. It just seems to be acres of space. A couple of times they were just like pumping the ball down the middle, so almost aimlessly between sort of like Mepham and O'Nien, and the ball would just seem to wriggle its way through to the likes of Tom Cannon, and he'd wrestle his way through, but then his touch would let him down, and Pato would have to come and claim it, or he'd get his body in front of it, so he's done well there. But then equally we pump it forward, and it just seems to be about 3-on-3 all the time, or 4-on-3 in our favour. But the final pass just wasn't there, or we'd shoot and it'd be too easy for Johansson to save, or it'd hit the post. And it was just little moments like that. Alshish, he started off really, really well. Every time he got it on that left-hand side, he just seems to spot passes and spots plays off the ball that no one else on our team seems to find. Just little quick passes that when it played into him, he'll flick it round the corner, behind earshot. So he shouldn't really, technically you'd think that he should never in a million years know that there's a lad making the run. But he does, and he's finding them, and he's finding little play, and he's making clever little passes when there's one time where it looked like he should have just brought it down, but he's cleverly just nodded it back to Isidore. And no one else would have noticed these little passes, do you know what I mean? So I'm going to give him credit regardless of the score, and regardless of how pissed off I am. He was really, really good, very, very dangerous, and throughout the game he was threatening and cutting in from left to right, putting such dangerous balls in, by the way, Alshish, but just the position of our strikes at times is just baffling. Like, I get it, sometimes we'll put the ball in and you might have a couple of plays, you might stand around the penalty spot, but someone needs to gamble. Someone needs to run in like he did last week against Blackburn, run across the near post. But then I see him and he's just stood in the same place with another 2 Sunderland players. Make an effort to get into the 6-yard box, and everyone just stood in the same place, and it's so easy to defend against. Alexic, and I said this at half time, I think there's absolutely a player in there with Alexic. He has this tenacity where he just don't give a shit. He will sprint back, and he's got some pace on him, the lad. Some acceleration and some strength as well. And a good couple of times, 2-3 times, he'd sprint back, he'd win the ball back for us, and then coming forward, he'd have that acceleration. But then I think just because he is just excitable. He is a young lad and has such a lack of experience. He'll kind of bring the ball forward and he'll just think, oh shit, I've got the ball, this is big, this is him. And he'll just swat it aimlessly and he'll just boot it in a kind of vague area of where a Sunderland player might be, and it'll just break the attack down. But generally, he was okay. He made the simple passes okay. Like I said, he was dangerous in breaking forward. He actually had a shot at one point when he did break forward. He was up against Lyndon Gooch. He tried to hit it towards the near post. And of course, Neuer in goal makes the save. But when it comes to the penalty shouts, one of them, Mayenda, up against Lyndon Gooch. And one thing that Gooch kept on doing was diving in so early on Mayenda. And Mayenda should have used his fucking brain and thought, right, he's using this every time to tap it round him. Because every single time he's doing it. But Mayenda, he'd become a little bit almost shit scared of him. Or he would stop the ball before even trying to take on Gooch. And he'd play a loose pass and we'd lose it. And he was doing it time and time again. But for this penalty claim, he's got the beating of Gooch. He's taken him to the right hand side, inside the box, and he's just about to hit the ball. But then Gooch flings across and lashes out basically towards Mayenda, and he does nick him. And all Mayenda has to do is go to ground, but he doesn't. He does the honest thing, being too honest, and he stays up, and so he keeps himself on his feet. And by the time the ball's trickled away, it's on the byline, so he couldn't really make anything of it. But if he hits the ground, hits the deck, that's absolutely a penalty. Then we did have an actual real penalty claim. Ball's put in the box. And I think originally the keeper makes a decent save, comes back to Mepham about 5-6 yards out, and just as he's about to swing for the ball, Berger just grabs his shirt, the back of Mepham's shirt, and drags him to the floor directly in the eyesight, in the line of sight of the referee, and gives nothing. But like I said, then there was other chances where we did manage to break and we ended up hitting the post, and it come to half time. And like I said, they did have a couple of chances of their own, but we made a catalogue of chances, and we needed to put them away. But then, and I will say, by the way, because I know Stoke fans were going apeshit throughout the game, the ref did have a torrid affair. He had an awful game. I think a lot of them, Stoke were just frustrated that they were giving away niggly free kicks and quite a few consecutively in a row. So regardless of what the referee does, they're going to piss and complain. That I get that. And a lot of them, I do think they were probably over-exaggerating, but equally there was, and I will just admit as a Sunderland fan, there were several where we had that sort of like the last touch before a throw-in and go out, and it was blatant, and they'd be giving it to us, little things like that. So I will say that it was poor in those little meaningless decisions like that. It was ridiculous. The ref was just shite either way. Second half, I feel like it was a bit more of the same for the opening sort of 5 minutes. We're making little half chances here and there again, putting many dangerous balls in the box, but nothing happening. But then they had a 10-15 minute period where they were absolutely all over us, and we just could not get the ball out of our own half at all. And every time we did try and drag it, they'd hit us hard and then we'd go forward. And the one thing I will probably give us as a little bit of a positive is, historically, when we do come up against a team that's so physical and take us out every 2 seconds, we tend to kind of cower a little bit and we shit ourselves and we don't go for it. But we kept on standing up to him and kept on trying to play the ball around him regardless. So I will give us credit for that. But yeah, this 10-15 minute period, there were just gaps all over the defence. And all afternoon, we did look so shaky and uneasy at the back. Sirkin, for me, had a horrid game. Absolutely horrid. Just constantly misplaced passes. The trajectory of the ball, he was constantly miscalculating and missing it, and he had a really poor game in that sense. And don't get me wrong, there was definitely last-ditch challenges, but we didn't need to let it get to that point with like Mepham and O'Nien, because sometimes when in that 10-15 minute period, as I say, in that second half when Stoke were dominated, there were times when I'm looking at our back line, then you've got left back Beat Sirkin way ahead, O'Nien really deep, Mepham way ahead, and then it just so disjointed. It wasn't in a straight line. They were just all over the place. There's gaps in behind and players onside because someone's keeping them on. There just seems to be no communication, and it looked awful. It looked Sunday League, and I don't know whether there was a bit of a bubble or whatever on the pitch, or it wasn't a great pitch, but just loose passes absolutely all over the shot. But yeah, they were making loads of chances, or sort of half chances, should I say, with sort of like goal line clearances or sort of scrambles in the box. But we managed to weather the storm. We eventually made changes, thank God. Mayenda went from the right hand side. He went up top with Isidore. We brought on Alessi. He went to left back. Alexic come off. We brought Connolly on eventually as well. And Roberts on the right hand side. So we went to a flat 4-4-2 where it looked very, very hopeful for me. We didn't have enough in the middle for it. Job and Dan looked shattered at this point, and it was just kind of aimless balls just try to put it over the top. And Meander, like I said, he had a horrible game for me. And he had probably the easiest chance you'll ever see. And I know we had an easier chance, almost an easier chance last week against Blackburn. And I know, by the way, he's a young lad, and everyone jumps to a defence. So he's young, and against Blackburn, of course, when it was 2-2, then it was pretty much the last kick of the game. He's through 1-on-1 with the keeper, no one around him, and he just looks down. He's running towards the away fans, the 7,500 Sunderland fans, and he's 1-on-1 with the keeper, and he just had his head down like this and ran and run straight into the keeper. Didn't look up once. And a lot of people have said, he's 19 years of age, he's this, that, and the other. And I get that to a degree, but he's been a football player all his life, regardless of whether he's 19 or lack of experience, whatever. He's played enough football to know how to kick it. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't. But then this is worse. This is worse. A ball comes in. It's a fantastic ball in. Finds Meander totally free in the box. I mean, totally free. No one just on his back to put him off. No one in front to put him off. 6 yards out. Totally free header, and he hits it a good 5 yards wide with his head. How on earth do you manage that? It's an absolute piss take. And at that point, it was still 0-0. So I just thought, what we're going to do? Al-Shish, he did very well on the left-hand side. He was still putting crosses in that no one was even gambling on to get into the 6-yard box. They still stood on the edge. No one's in the box. He was taking the game by the scruff of his neck at times and just dragged the ball into the box himself. And he was going for goal, and a good save at the near post. He hit the post again in that second half, Al-Shish as well. But then it comes, I think it's the 91st minute, ball gets pumped up. Mepper makes a bit of an error, really. Tom Cannon does well to kind of... The ball sticks to him as both Mepper and Cannon is kind of on the ground, scrapping for the ball. But he managed to get up and carry on. And then he just pings the ball into the bottom right-hand corner from distance to make it 1-0. And they managed to see the game out. And so it's frustrating as hell. It really, really is frustrating as hell. We're always going to lose games. I expect us to lose games this season. But when it's like that, and again, and it might come across as if I'm saying that we thoroughly dominated and they didn't make chances, because they definitely did make chances. I just feel like we made more than enough. And if we want to be at least maybe chasing top 2 and solidifying top 6, we need to be finishing these games off. We absolutely need to be finishing these games off. And it's 3 points down the drain, absolutely wasted. It's needless, piss poor defending, and it should have. And we can't just blame defenders either, because, like I said up top, we were toothless, and a good team would have been 3-4-0 up by the hour mark with the chances that we made, but we just didn't. We were just so poor in that sense. But I'll try and end on somewhat of a positive. Like I said, Alexic looked okay. Al-Shish, given that he hadn't started a game for God knows how long, he looked very, very good. Very good. So I was happy to see that. It was so creative. And, something I've always said about Al-Shish quite a lot on this channel, I feel like generally I would say that he's someone who, he always looks a lot better when he's got a point to prove, in terms of he comes off the bench and he's trying to prove a point. But in the past, granted, it's not happened too many times, but when we have given him starts, he's looked shit and he's almost thinks like, okay, job's done. I've got myself in a team now and don't really contribute. But today he did, and he was probably one of our main threats, if not our main threat. But yeah, so I'll take that as a positive. But at the end of the day, we've thrown away 3 points here. Fair play to Stoke, but that was piss poor. But piss poor, it really was. But yeah, hopefully we get a few lads back very, very soon, because you can see we're just threadbare at the moment. If I was Rodgers, what I would have done, I think if he was going to go for a 4-4-2, I understand why he's done it, but I think Meander looked shattered. And he looked like he'd blown a gasket by the time we started making changes. I would have put either Connolly on earlier, or I would have put on Ogunsoye, who was on the bench today. It would have been good to see him, because he's rapid, could have stretched the game alongside Isidore. But I think Isidore, when we did go to the 4-4-2 and Connolly went up alongside Isidore in the end, we were just pumping balls up. And, he's a tiny lad, Connolly, and nothing was ever going to stick. But yeah, anyway, so that's it, guys. A really, really shit result, really shit day at the office, but we move on. But let me know in the comments down below, what did you think of the game? If you've somehow enjoyed, hit the like button for me, it'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the new year. Happy New Year. Jesus Christ, I wish it was on a better note, but anyway, yeah, Happy New Year. Take care, guys. Stay jammy. Away the lads.